Alright, hey nerds, real quick, this is Quick Builds, where I go over as quickly as possible the builds for characters and stats without really taking a breath. Fun stuff. And I'm doing this off the top of my head, so hopefully this doesn't go too crazy. This is kind of the challenge I wanted to make, so when it comes to knowledge of at least heroes. So, basic idea, we're going to go through every character that's been out in this new banner. That includes Rhajat, in case you want to talk about her, and we'll see what happens, alright? So, are you guys ready? Okay, so first up and foremost, we have Shiro. Unfortunately, I don't have any of my characters ready because they're still missing some of their abilities. I still need to level up like certain characters to get the right passive, so I'm just going to give you a list and tell you as quickly as possible what you can go for. So first up and foremost, when it comes to IVs for Shiro, the ones that you're going to want to aim for are attack and defense. Those are the main IVs for boons that you want. For Banes, you really don't need speed or resistance or even HP in some cases. I don't really like HP being sacrificed just because when it comes to defensive units, they kind of, it might help to have it at times, I guess. The main Bane that you probably want would mostly be speed because it just doesn't help him out in the long run. He doesn't have it, enough of it to at least contribute too much when it comes to dealing with any of those speedier units out there. Yeah, the one thing I do want to mention about these units is that they are very good at being frugal, and that's what I'm trying to do with these quick builds, is to give you a simple example of something you can do when it comes to frugality, I guess, being as frugal as possible. Simple abilities, okay? That's the aim here. So, first up and foremost, repositional ability there, well, all you really need is a good old-fashioned reposition. I mean, that is all you really need. And that, of course, comes from Sharina and Barst, who are both options you can get at 3 stars, and they will both have them, so you don't have to worry your little head about it. He does, of course, have swap automatically in case you want to get that. From there, for your action skill, well, I would probably say Ignis or Bonfire, and I'm going to say mostly Bonfire. Bonfire is pretty easy to get from units such as Male Robin. He shows up at 3 stars and is more accessible than most. Ignis in case you want to run a much more fancier build, which we'll talk about a bit later. So from there, his A slot is Steady Stance. That's just a simple option there. It's already in his build. It's really one of the best options you have there, and if you really, really wanted to go all out balls crazy and you really love Shiro that much, there's always the option, of course, of going with Steady Breath. I feel that's a bit excessive, but hey, if you really love him, by God, do Steady Breath. Outside of that, you could also do something like Fury if you really feel like you want to up his stats, of course. I really don't feel so good about Steady Breath and killing off a Brave Ike, but if you really want Fury, that can come from several. Hinata's the easiest. And when I say easiest, I mean, guys, he's easier than, say, killing off a Brave Ike. Just saying, okay? Alright, so next up, let's talk about the B slot. The B slot is easy enough. That's probably something you're going to want to fill with Quick Riposte. Now, before anyone asks, what? Quick Riposte? It's a simple option. You don't need Quick Riposte 3. You can use Quick Riposte 2. It's cheap. It usually comes from some units that just, things like Klein, things like our good friend Tsubaki. Easy enough. 2 will fit the bill as long as, you use it. It doesn't necessarily need to be 3, so 2 works just as well. From there, your C slot is really whatever you want to do. However, he does already have Defensive Tactic, which will work well if you're doing a mixed party build, based on movement types. Your horses, your foot, your infantry, your flyers, what have you. Just mix and match. And the idea is to have, a mixed team, about 2 each, something like that. But if you want to cement his abilities as being a frontline tank, there are options such as Threat and Defense, which will allow him to, really just screw with the team that he's up against. That way, you won't have to worry about, maybe not killing them the next round through. That's just an option. I like that option myself, but hey. And if you really want to go with a Sacred Seal, Close Defense would work really well. You could also, of course, again, if you don't get a boon in your right spot, or you have a Bane in one of the worst stats that you can have, any of those seals that you have, if you can upgrade them, they will fit into that void pretty well, and at least fix any of those problems you may have. So that's a plus side. All right, moving on. We have Soleil! Soleil! Yay! First up, let me just say, attack stat, high. Very, very high for a character like her. Insanely high. I'm not too certain as to, well, she, I guess it follows the tradition of her stat pool in Fates, but hey, a 35 speed is also insanely good. So obviously those two stats are the ones you're going to want to aim for. She also has a pretty powerful defense stat, so if you do happen to get a boon in that, it's not the end of the world. The ones that, of course, you don't really need, I guess, would probably be resistance and HP for Banes. So there are the options for you. Attack and speed are great. Defense can take a hit as well. You don't need a boon in that. You can take a Bane in that as well. And resistance and HP. There's a reason for this, though. First up and foremost, let me just give you the obvious thing. Command skill, reposition, Selena, bars, bloody, 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 blah. Yeah, just roll with it, okay? From there, we of course have her attacking skill, which you can really go with it, but Draconic Aura is probably the easiest option there. That comes from female Corrin, also Camilla, and just it buffs off attacks and things like that, and you can just really run that pretty easily. Doesn't require any sort of 5-star skill. From there, though, with the A slot, there are a lot of options. You can always go with her Darting Blow that she already has. It's a great, fantastic skill, and something you're probably going to want to run with anyways if you decide to use her, and you don't want to spend too much. It's always a great option. From there, well, you can always go with Quick Riposte in your beast. I'm kidding. I know someone was probably already typing up a comment going, "You just said Quick Riposte." Guys, just so we're clear here. The idea behind our good friend Soleil here, and I forgot to mention this, is Fire Sweep weapon. The Fire Sweep sword means that she does not get countered when she attacks, so if she were to go in and attack, she doesn't get counterattacked. The only problem there, of course, is that when she gets attacked, she can't counterattack either. So the idea behind Soleil is to go in there and do as much damage as possible and then come back. That's at least what is out of her base stat. And that's something that I feel, since we're going with a frugal kind of ideology here, you want to go with that. So why not buff her up in some ways? You could run Life and Death on Soleil and get a huge benefit from it. Her attack and speed will, of course, go way up. She'll have more just all-out damage, and the units can't attack her back. In her B slot, you can do certain things that a lot of other Fire Sweep weapons, weapon users tend to do. Things like hit and run, where your unit will go in, attack, and hopefully kill the target. If not, we'll pull back. Usually, these are valid options for, a whole swarm of enemies where your unit can move out of danger's way. That's an option. Or if you don't feel like it, you can always go with something like Sword Breakers to compete against the more powerful targets that might be in the sword variety for her. She will have to go up against those, and it's not always a simple option for those. But, you can just work with that. Hit and run, of course, comes, at least from what I recall, it comes from Claire at an easy, accessible 4 stars, not the best. And Sword Breaker, I'm actually, let me just make sure. I need to look at my list again real quick. And, okay, Abel. That's right. Abel at 4 stars. Anyways, at least for the maximum. You can also get it from Sully and other areas. However, when it comes to C skills, it's really up to you at this point. Soleil works really, really well at just messing with her enemies. You can do things, all kinds of stuff. You can allow her to buff up your team if you feel like it. You can allow her to work with certain other units if you feel like it. Smoke effects always are a plus. Savage Blow can be fun, especially. There's all sorts of options there. Soleil is a fun one, and definitely something you're going to want to try. Alright, so yes, that is Soleil. Alright, moving on. Let's go on to Siegbert. Oh, God, I'm thinking other things. Anyway, Siegbert. One things you're going to want to go for, obviously. Attack, speed, defense are all great options for his boons if you really feel like it. He does a really great job. Dark Greatsword, of course, gives him basically Swift Sparrow 3, meaning that his attack and speed will be increased when he initiates at a interval of +4. So just if you feel like going in crazy, you can do a lot of things. Obviously, reposition, drag back, whichever you feel like doing. We've already gone over that. Draconic Aura again for a slot. For his A slot, you can always just go with his already inbuilt Death Blow, which is cool and just honestly the easiest option. It's just such a simple option for him, something that he can really run with. From there, you could also, if you really feel like spending a lot of time and money and effort into it, you can always go with Swift Sparrow as well, but it's really a difficult test there. I don't know if you really want to do that. And I guess you can always go with Fury, right? From there, B slot, Desperation, characters like Shauna, easily give it. And of course, in the C slot, I would suggest horse buffs, because chances are you're going to be running Siegbert with a lot of horse buffs. You can also technically, since he has great defenses, and he's also, of course, a cavalier unit, you could make him a quote-unquote better, well, I guess you can say it, a better Xander, if you really wanted to, but that's debatable at the best. So let's move on to the other option, the last character here, and that, of course, is our good friend Rhajat. Oh boy. Okay, so obviously the one stats that you're going to want to go for, of course, are attack and speed. She doesn't need defense. She doesn't need HP. From there, reposition, really. Certain abilities, I would say for her, at least Moonbow would probably be a good option. Just Moonbow, something like that, would be easy enough to use. The simplest and most frugal ability that it can give you in the A slot is, of course, I guess Fury. Just off the top of my head. Yeah, she kind of has not much going on there. From there, you can really just do all sorts of other things. Keen Gronwolf is not something that you necessarily need. You could probably make her into a Grondblade build, or even a, yeah, probably just a Grondblade build. That would work really well with Fury and Desperation. You could probably work that out well enough. She could work, like a lesser extent, Nino, or you could just keep the Keen Gronwolf and instead just go with Fury, and then, of course, in the B slot, Green Tomebreaker, and then in the C slot, whatever you need. I don't know. Savage Blow. That at least is the options for her. There are a lot going out there, but that is quick builds. Holy crap, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. Good night, guys.